So after seeing the Dillon Danis versus Logan Paul face-off, here's a couple of takes that I got from that. Number one, I had noticed that these guys are on the verge of trying to understand the difference between reality and fight banter. Also, the thin line between just business and actually getting in there and getting in the ring and handling what you need to handle in terms of this beef that they have going on. So they're kind of in the mix of all that. And why do I mention that? Well, for one, you got to understand. Remember when Khabib and McGregor did a press conference? These guys had to do it all alone. Obviously, this is different than a press conference. This is a traditional face-off, which I've seen a lot in a lot of British boxing promotions over the years, whether that would be with Carl Froch or George Groves or Dillian Whyte and Anthony Joshua. The first time that they were fighting at the pros, obviously you've seen that they got the fight canceled the second time around in their second pro fight with each other. But yes, this is a common tradition that goes on in British boxing, right? And obviously this fight, yes, deals with two Americans, but it is headlined by British stars such as KSI and Tommy Fury, but taking place in the hometown of Tommy Fury, which is Manchester, England. So what's great about this is that you're really trying to see now the reality of what this fight means. Because yes, the reality is that there is a lawsuit going on hanging over the head of Dillon Danis, but then there's also this aspect of Logan Paul being upset that Dillon Danis rarely did anything to promote this fight in the beginning before Dillon Danis started revealing all these Nina Agdal pictures of the different guys. And by the way, being the funniest of them all is Ja Rule. I don't know why, but out of all the pictures that Dillon Danis puts up with Nina Agdal, obviously these are all A-star names, the funniest of them all is none other than Ja Rule. But if you have the same funny bone as I do about that particular picture being shown with Ja Rule, or just laugh at the fact that Ja Rule is presented in any picture these days, comment on the section below and let me know what you think. But furthermore, with this fiasco of a face-off, I thought that these two guys had a mixture of being reasonable, but not only reasonable, also trying to come to the grips of reality of what is going on and what is happening, right? Because I don't know if Dillon Danis really believes that Logan Paul is taking steroids or anything like that, but the fact that he brings it up, I think, plays a factor into the mind of how Logan Paul is going to basically execute this fight. And what do I mean by that? Well, for one, what Dillon Danis is trying to get at is that he doesn't think that Logan Paul is going to have enough of a gas tank to be able to last this particular fight. So because of that, I think that he is banking on Dillon Danis maybe fighting a much longer term type of fight. And Dillon Danis is sort of looking for Logan Paul to fight a haymaker type of fight where he's just throwing nothing but bombs on him. So if he's going to do that, then I think we can kind of see an opening of how this fight is going to go. And that's the only indication that you can really take, because realistically, you are dealing with two guys that rarely box. One guy has boxed, but the other guy is a full-time combat athlete in a different sport other than boxing, which is where they're going to compete at. But the problem is that you don't really know what is going to happen based on the fact that Logan has been inactive. And by the way, even his brother Jake had mentioned that leading up into their podcast that they did not too long ago, which is maybe like yesterday. Right now, it's probably Friday of that particular week that they released that podcast. But they mentioned a few things that I thought was really interesting, far more than the actual face-off itself. For one, Jake Paul challenges the notion that he really believes that his brother is going to knock out Dillon Danis. Does he really believe that? Because let me tell you what I notice about Jake, right? I notice that Jake is very boxing minded, meaning that he has a very higher IQ of the sport more than the casual observers. And he even talks about that particular subject in these segments with that current Logan Paul Impulsive podcast, where a lot of people just don't really understand what is happening in a fight and the armchair quarterbacking advice that they're giving. So there's a lot that goes into that. He understands fighting, but at the same time, does he really understand that his brother has a better chance against a more seasoned combat athlete? Knowing, and he even mentions this to the effect that his brother has been inactive. So now, going into this fight with Logan Paul and Dillon Danis, Mike, the manager of Logan Paul, hints at the effect of like saying something, oh, well, I seen you spar, you beat this dude up, or this and that. And then they joke around saying that, well, I didn't really train much. So there's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on. You don't know what to believe. You don't know if Logan is really playing possum when it comes to faking a training camp or lack of, or faking a certain amount of dedication that he's putting into this fight to sort of lure Dillon Danis in. But then you look at Dillon Danis, he's not really doing much either, and the only thing that you really see out of him is none other than just MMA sparring videos. Now, is that deliberative, being on the fact that he's trying to lure Logan as well? There's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on in this fight, right? They're upping the stakes on everything. Logan mentions Dillon Danis' dead father, which is a low blow, but then what do you expect from a situation like this where these guys literally take the gloves off and just have a no-holds-barred when it comes to the verbal affair that they're having before the matchup? But nonetheless, I think that with that face-off, it was entertaining, it was interesting, and I think that a lot of these guys were doing a lot of playing bluff with each other, trying to one-upsmanship when it comes to placing bets. Oh, I'm going to be your best man if I win, or I'm going to be this. You got to fight me in MMA. We're going to fight in MMA as a rematch. Again, a lot of smoking mirrors, and you don't know what is real and what isn't. But then again, maybe that's the point of the whole thing, isn't it? That's why they call it the theater of the unknown.